You ever notice how betrayal doesn't announce itself with fireworks? No, it walks in wearing a smile, carrying your dreams in one hand and someone else's number in the other. That's how it started for me. We had just bought our dream house. Brickfront colonial, wraparound porch, and one of those clawfoot tubs she swore she'd always wanted since watching too many HGTV marathons. The kind of house you don't just live in, you arrive in. We signed the papers on a Tuesday. I still remember the realtor handing us the keys with that overly sincere grin, like he was part of the happy ending montage. And for a while, it did feel like a movie. I still can't believe it, she said that night, barefoot on the kitchen tile, swirling wine like she was in a commercial. It's ours. And I believed her. God help me, I did. I took a picture of her that night, sunset pouring in through the windows, lighting up her smile. I posted it. Captioned it. Home, finally. Got over 200 likes. Even my cousin Greg, who usually only shows up to make fun of my hairline, commented, "Man, you're winning." I thought so too. What I didn't know, what no one tells you about dream homes, is that nightmares can live there too. About a month in, she started staying late at meetings. Work happy hours turned into overnight conferences. At first, I didn't think much of it. We were both hustling. New mortgage, new responsibilities. I figured she was just grinding, trying to hold up her end. The first real crack showed up in the form of a question. Harmless, on the surface. "You've been to the house during the day, right?" she asked one evening, casual as you like. We were eating Thai on the back patio. She picked at her pad Thai, barely touched it. "Only that one Friday I worked remote." "Why?" She shrugged. "Just thought I left a candle burning." "Guess not." Odd. But nothing huge. 2 weeks later, I came home early. Canceled afternoon meetings, wanted to surprise her with dinner. The kind of small gesture that keeps a marriage stitched together. As I pulled into the driveway, I noticed it. A second car in the garage. One that wasn't hers. Or mine. My stomach dropped like an elevator cable had snapped. I parked in the street. Sat in the car, trying to rationalize it. Maybe it was a friend. Maybe her cousin. Maybe, stop. I got out quietly and walked up to the porch. Didn't go in. Just stood there, hand on the door handle. Listening. Laughter. A man's. Her voice, soft and familiar, but different. That tone she used to save for me. I didn't go in. I turned around, walked to the backyard, and sat on the swing we hadn't even had time to hang properly. The one we said we'd use when we were 80. The sun was setting. Same as that first night. Only now, I wasn't holding a wine glass. I was holding a question mark the size of our entire mortgage. She texted me an hour later. "Hey love, heading home soon. Want me to grab dinner?" I stared at that message for 10 minutes. Then replied. Already 8. She came in a bit after 8. Her makeup was fresh. Too fresh. Her blouse still had the folds from her purse. And her hair? Styled. Not meeting styled, date styled. "Hey," she smiled, walking over like nothing was off. I kissed her forehead. And in that moment, I knew. Not because she smelled like someone else's cologne. Not because of the car in the garage. But because when I kissed her, she didn't lean in. She leaned away. You ever try kissing someone who's already emotionally packed their bags? It's like leaning into a ghost. There's shape, there's presence, but no weight. That's how it felt when I kissed her that night. She laughed when I pulled back. "You're being weird," she said, brushing past me. "You okay?" "Oh, I was spectacular. Just spent the last 2 hours contemplating whether I was married or just renting the illusion. But sure, let's call that weird." "Fine," I replied, following her inside. "Just tired." She nodded and vanished into the bathroom. The door closed with that soft click that meant, I'm off limits right now. I stood in our kitchen, staring at the island where we'd planned Sunday pancakes and holiday spreads. Now it looked like a crime scene without the tape. The next day, I did what any man in quiet denial does. I gaslight myself. Maybe it was her cousin's car. Maybe laughter just sounds different through a wall. Maybe I was being paranoid. Then came Tuesday. I took a half day from work. Told the office I had a dentist appointment. Technically not a lie. I was about to extract the truth. I parked 3 houses down and waited. Sunglasses, baseball cap, a coffee I didn't drink. Around 1:17 p.m., she pulled in. Not alone. Passenger seat. A guy in a fitted dress shirt and sunglasses that cost more than my entire wardrobe. He carried himself like the kind of man who's used to being invited inside places he shouldn't be. They got out. Walked to the front door. She opened it for him. I saw her smile. Our door. My wife. That smile. I didn't follow. Not yet. I drove straight to a locksmith. By 4 p.m., I had a copy of every key. By 5, I had cameras in the living room, hallway, and most importantly, the master bedroom. Nothing obvious, nothing flashy. Just enough to keep a record. Not for court. For me. I needed to see. Needed to know. That night she came home with a bag of groceries and a casual, "Sorry I'm late. Traffic was hell." I nodded. I figured. "You didn't wait for dinner, did you?" "Nope. Ate leftovers." She smiled, relieved, like I was still buying it. I almost admired her nerve. Almost. The recordings started piling up within the week. Him. His voice. His laugh. His jacket on the back of our dining chair. Once, he even used my mug. Said, "This one's nice. Feels like a real man's cup." She laughed. Called it vintage. Said it belonged to an old boyfriend. An old boyfriend. You ever feel your identity get downgraded from husband to historical artifact? I did. While he drank from my mug in my kitchen in the house I bought for her. She had rewritten me into a trivia question. That Friday, I confronted her. "You ever think about what makes a house a home?" I asked. She looked up from her phone, confused. "What?" "Just wondering how much of this feels like home to you lately." She smiled nervously. "Babe, what's going on?" I stepped closer. "Who's he?" She blinked. "Who?" "The man you've been bringing here. When I'm not home." For a moment, she tried to act confused. Like I just accused her of stealing office pins. But then something changed in her eyes, she knew. Knew she'd been caught. Her defense? "You were always gone. Always working." I was lonely. "And this," I said, gesturing to the ceiling, "this was your solution? Bringing him here?" She didn't say sorry. Didn't cry. Just crossed her arms and said, "It's not what you think." I almost laughed. "Let me guess. He's just a friend. A friend who really likes my mug." Nothing. Not even a twitch of guilt. And right then, I knew two things. She wasn't sorry. This wasn't going to end with a fight. It was going to end with a reckoning. You know what they never tell you about betrayal? It doesn't just crack you, it remodels you. Like a bad home renovation. Everything's still there, walls, roof, windows, but now the plumbing screams and the light switches do nothing. That's what I was, after she stood there with her arms crossed and not an ounce of apology in her body. A gutted house. And she was already redecorating it for someone else. That night, I didn't sleep in our bed. Not out of anger. I just didn't want to lie next to someone who could lie so easily. I took a pillow to the guest room. That mattress still had the factory tag. We always said we'd save it for guests. Apparently, I was now one of them. In the morning, she acted like nothing happened. Poured coffee. Hummed. Checked her emails on the couch like she hadn't just detonated our marriage in the living room the night before. "So, are we going to talk about it?" I asked, leaning against the counter. She sipped from her mug. "Talk about what?" "Well, I know what's been going on. I've seen it. Heard it." She paused. "Just for a second. I told you, it's complicated." Complicated. That word. That's the word people use when they're trying to simplify their guilt. She tilted her head. "I never meant for it to go this far." "Oh," I said, "but far enough to bring him into our house. The one we built together. That far." She actually had the audacity to say it wasn't about the house. It was about me. About how I felt. And how I felt? I asked. She stared. I guess I didn't think about that. Exactly. She hadn't. You want to know the worst part? She still wore the ring. Still posted #blessed selfies. Still smiled when the neighbors waved. She was trying to live in two realities at once. Wife on paper. Tourist in her own life. So I got strategic. I spent the next few days doing what she assumed I'd never do, paying attention. She underestimated me, you see. Thought I was too calm. Too forgiving. She didn't realize calm men don't explode. They plan. I started logging everything. Times. Dates. License plates. Credit card charges she forgot to hide. Screenshots. Video stills. I wasn't collecting revenge. I was collecting clarity. Because if she wanted to treat me like a footnote, I'd rewrite the chapter. One night, she came in late. Real late. Tried to sneak upstairs barefoot, keys jingling in her purse like guilt. "You're home early," I said from the dark kitchen. She jumped, hand to her chest. "You scared me. Not as much as you scared me." She looked annoyed. "We're still doing this?" "Doing what?" I stood. "Being married?" Her jaw set like a steel trap. "You're not innocent either." "Really?" I tilted my head. "Please. Enlighten me." You shut down a long time ago. You stopped caring. And there it was. It's your fault I cheated. The classic move. Like blaming the fire extinguisher for not putting out the flames fast enough. I nodded slowly. Good to know. Because now I do care. Deeply. She hesitated. What does that mean? It means you've got 1 week, I said flatly. To pack. To figure out where you want to be. She narrowed her eyes. You think you can just kick me out? I smiled. You're the one who let someone else in. I'm just changing the locks. She stormed off. But me? I'd already started writing the ending. The following morning, I stood in the kitchen, drinking coffee from my mug, the same one that Pretender had used like it was community property. It was a gift from my brother years ago, chipped at the rim, faded lettering that read, "World's okayest husband." A joke at the time. No? Felt about right. She came downstairs an hour later. Hair damp, face polished, phone already glued to her hand. Like none of this had ever happened. Like we were just two ships calmly passing in the breakfast fog. I didn't say good morning. I didn't even look at her. That was the new arrangement. We lived in the same house, but in separate realities. Mine, rooted in the cold clarity of facts. Hers, suspended in the fantasy that I still had no backbone. You're not going to talk to me forever now? She asked, half turned toward the fridge. I took a slow sip. I already said what I needed to. She scoffed. Right. The 1 week ultimatum. Very dramatic. I was being generous. She grabbed oat milk, hers, of course, and poured it into her cereal. You really think I'm just going to pack up and leave like some intern who screwed up a filing system? I tilted my head. No. I think you'll resist. I think you'll pout. I think you'll try to manipulate me like you always do. But you will leave. Because you already did. That shut her up for a moment. Then, with a mocking little smirk, she said, You really want to blow all this up over one mistake? One mistake. I laughed, low and sharp. You brought another man into the house I spent a decade building with you. You slept with him in our bed. That's not a mistake. That's a campaign. She opened her mouth to fire back, but thought better of it. Instead, she grabbed her spoon and disappeared into the other room. Cowardice, served cold with cereal. Later that day, I began my own form of packing. Not clothes, not suitcases. Evidence. It wasn't about dragging her through court. I didn't want revenge in the legal sense. I wanted peace. But peace often comes with preparation. Receipts. Security footage. Audio. I built a tidy folder on my hard drive titled Exit Strategy. I even smiled at the name. Felt fitting. I started separating the things that belonged to me. Not just physically, emotionally. Gifts I bought for her because I thought she'd love them? Left those behind. Photos of us on the wall? Removed quietly. Carefully. One by one. I didn't tear them down like a madman. I filed them away like they were part of a museum exhibit that had finally closed. Each object was an artifact of a version of her that no longer existed. The more I removed myself, the more the house felt like a stage after closing night. The props were still there, but the magic was gone. She noticed, of course. Where's the picture from Tahoe? She asked the next morning. In a box, I replied. She crossed her arms. Why? You said you laugh more when you're not with me, I said. I figured no point in keeping pictures where you're pretending otherwise. Her eyes flickered. She hadn't expected me to remember that line. But I had. I remembered everything now. The details. The body language. The sighs between conversations. All the small betrayals I'd ignored while I was busy being safe. Thursday night, she crossed a line she hadn't dared to yet. I think we should try counseling. I looked up from the document I was editing. What for? She stepped into the room, barefoot casual. That relatable wife look she always defaulted to when she needed a PR boost. For us, she said softly. For the marriage. I know I messed up. But maybe it's not too late. I stared at her for a long moment. There was no rage left in me, just curiosity. Why now? Her voice cracked. Because you're really going to go through with it. And that's the first time it felt real to you? She nodded. That's when I realized. She didn't miss me. She missed control. She missed being the one who walked away. Missed being the one who decided when the arguments ended. Now that I had the reins? Suddenly she was emotional. Suddenly, she believed in therapy. I didn't yell. I didn't mock her. I just stood up, walked over to the nightstand, and handed her a small envelope. She opened it. Inside, a printed screenshot of a frame from the security footage. Him, mid-laugh, hand on her thigh, in our living room. Behind it, a photo of us from 5 years ago, me holding her in the same exact spot. Same room. Different world. Her eyes went glassy. She looked at me, finally, not like a husband or a doormat, but like something she'd underestimated and didn't understand. "What am I supposed to do with this?" she whispered. "Whatever you want," I said. "Frame it. Burn it. Mail it to him. Doesn't matter. That's the moment you made your choice. I'm just honoring it." I left her standing there in silence. The next morning, she started packing. No tears. No declarations. No apologies. She left a note on the kitchen counter. Just 3 words. I wasn't ready. Neither was I. But I was prepared. I didn't touch the note. I wasn't ready. What does that even mean? It sounded less like a confession and more like an excuse someone would give for missing a flight or forgetting an anniversary. Not ready for what? Marriage? Monogamy? Consequences? I let the words sit there on the counter next to her favorite candle, the one she never lit, just left as decor, like her loyalty. By noon, the house was quiet. She was gone. No dramatic slamming of doors. No sobbing exit monologue. Just the hollow sound of wheels dragging her suitcase across the floorboards we picked together. She didn't say goodbye. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She didn't even take the stupid candle. She left behind the things that don't fit in luggage: guilt, silence, and me. I spent that afternoon doing what any self-respecting man does after his marriage collapses. I vacuumed. I scrubbed the tile grout. I reorganized the spice cabinet. It wasn't therapy, but it felt close enough. Something about restoring order to your environment when your entire inner world has been thrown into the blender without the lid on. I even Windexed the mirror in my bathroom, just to see myself clearly for the first time in weeks. And there I was. Same face. Same eyes. Just sharper now. Wiser. And tired. God, I was tired. The following days passed in a strange, still rhythm. Friends texted. Some called. "Hey, man. Heard something weird. Everything cool?" I gave everyone the same line. Just going through a transition. Nothing to worry about. Short. Vague. Non-negotiable. My brother offered to drive up. "We could grill. Get you out of your head," he said. I appreciated the gesture, but I declined. Truth was, I didn't want company. I wanted space. I wasn't just healing. I was recalculating. Then, on the 5th morning, I found something she had taken, the watch I was going to give her for our anniversary next month. A navy dial, rose gold hands, engraved with the words "to time well spent" on the back. I tucked it into the closet's top shelf, still in the box. She must have found it while packing. No note. No acknowledgement. Just gone. The irony hit like a slow punch to the ribs. She stole the gift I never got to give. A perfect metaphor, really, for how she took all the good intentions I poured into this marriage and handed them off to someone else like party favors. I should have been angry. Instead, I laughed. The sound echoed through the hallway like I was living in a sitcom filmed in a mausoleum. That weekend, I ran into our neighbor, Mrs. Patel, the older woman who walked her tiny Pomeranian like it was royalty. She waved from her driveway. "Everything all right over there?" she asked, squinting over her sunglasses. "Eventually," I said. She stepped closer. "I only asked because I haven't seen your wife in a few days. Is she traveling?" I smiled politely. "She's relocated." "Oh," she said, eyebrows climbing like curtain rods. "Well, I hope she finds what she's looking for." "Me too, Mrs. Patel." "Me too." Monday, I went back to work. Everyone pretended not to notice the difference. Except my boss, Gary, who casually dropped a brochure for a men's weekend retreat on my desk like a mafia warning. "No pressure, man," he said, "but you look like a guy who's been staring at drywall for 3 days. He wasn't wrong. But I wasn't just staring. I was thinking. Because now that she was out, and the silence had settled in, I realized something. I didn't miss her. Not really. I missed the idea of her, the version I had built in my head. The one who still laughed at my dumb impressions and danced barefoot in the kitchen. The one who cried during dog commercials and swore that lemon-scented cleaner was her love language. But that version of her? She'd left long before her suitcase did. And the one who stayed behind, sneaking another man through the front door? I didn't know her. I didn't want to know her. On Thursday, she texted, "Hey, just wondering how you're doing." I stared at the screen for a solid minute. Not angry. Not tempted. Just amused. 3 days earlier, she had taken the last piece of me she could grab, my still-wrapped gift, and now she wanted to check in? Check in on what, exactly? The damage? The answer? The new blueprint for my life? I didn't reply. Not because I was playing games. Because I was done writing lines in her play. That night, I did something I hadn't done since before we moved into the house. I sat on the back porch. Alone. No phones. No cameras. Just me, a beer, and the breeze. The wind stirred the trees like they were whispering things I'd forgotten how to hear. I thought about the first night we stood out there together, fresh keys in our hands, her head on my shoulder, our laughter tangled with the wind. That was before the lies. Before the silence. Before the phantom second toothbrush that showed up one week, then disappeared the next. I closed my eyes and leaned back, letting the wood of the chair creak beneath me. That creak had always annoyed her. Too loud. Too rustic. She wanted to replace it. Now it was one of the few things left that still felt real. As I stood to go inside, I noticed something wedged beneath the deck rail. A photo. It must have slipped out during one of our moving days. Us, smiling on the porch. She had her arms around me. My eyes were squinting in the sun. You could tell I was mid-laugh. I stared at it for a while. Then I lit the corner with my lighter and watched it curl into black ash. Some memories are worth saving. Others? You let them burn, so they don't burn you later. I always thought closure came like a courtroom verdict. A clear ruling. A moment. A final slam of a gavel that echoed in your bones. But it doesn't. Closure is quieter. It's an empty driveway where her car used to be. It's the silence in the hallway when you realize no one's going to say goodnight. It's waking up and realizing you no longer wait to hear the door click open at 2 a.m. It's peace, served cold and wordless. The morning after I burned the photo, I found myself standing in the master bathroom, staring into the mirror like it had something to tell me. Same eyes. Same crooked jawline. Only now, I looked like a man who had finally figured out he'd been in a one-man marriage for years. And somehow, I wasn't broken. I was clear. By noon, I compiled everything, every file, recording, email, receipt. I wasn't planning to release it like a scandal. No messy court drama. No revenge post with the obligatory "here's what she did to me" caption. But I wasn't going to just delete it either. Let's call it insurance. Because women like her don't always let you leave clean. There's usually a second act. A rewrite. A retelling of events where she's the confused, loving wife who just couldn't reach the distant, uncommunicative husband. Not this time. I was ready for the sequel. Around 4 p.m., I got a call from a blocked number. Normally, I don't answer those. But something told me this one was worth picking up. I was right. "Hey," she said, voice soft, a little shaky. "It's me." Didn't sound like a woman ready to admit fault. Sounded like someone hoping to reset the narrative. "I figured," I replied. "I didn't think you'd answer." And yet, here we are. A pause. "Can we meet?" she asked. "Just to talk." "About what?" "About everything. I just want to explain." That word again. Explain. As if a well-worded explanation could rewind the tape. As if there was a version of this story where I'd nod and say, "Ah, I get it now. Carry on." Still, curiosity got the better of me. "Tomorrow," I said. 11 a.m. Cafe on Monroe. Public. Neutral. Safe. "Okay," she whispered. "I'll be there." The next morning, I got there 20 minutes early. Old habit. She used to call it one of my dad traits. Arriving everywhere early enough to help set up chairs no one asked for. I ordered coffee, black, and sat by the window. People came and went. I watched them without envy. I wasn't angry anymore. Just observant. At 10:57, she walked in. Hair pulled back. No makeup. No ring. She looked smaller. Not physically. Just dimmed. She spotted me and walked over, carefully. Like I might vanish if she moved too fast. "Hi," she said, sliding into the seat across from me. "Morning." She folded her hands, stared at them, then at me. "I owe you an apology." I said nothing. Not yet. I was selfish. I know that. And I'm not here to make excuses. You lied. I interrupted gently. Repeatedly. You cheated in our home. And when I confronted you, you gaslit me. She blinked. No need to explain. I added. "I'm not here for an apology. I'm here to witness yours." She looked confused. "Because you need to say it more than I need to hear it," I clarified. She exhaled. "I didn't expect you to be like this." "Like what?" "So calm." I smiled. "That's what happens when you finally stop dragging dead weight." That hit. She looked down at her coffee. Stirred it slowly. No sugar. Just a spoon swirling silence. "I've been seeing a therapist," she said. "Good," I said. "She'll need one too." She didn't laugh. There was a moment, fleeting, microscopic, where her eyes softened. Where I could see the version of her I fell for years ago. The woman who used to steal my fries and say they tasted better from my plate. The one who snuck notes into my jacket pockets on cold mornings. That version was gone. And maybe she missed her too. The conversation ended like a fading song. No crescendo. No big finale. Just a quiet, final line. I wish you the best, she said as she stood. I nodded. I already gave myself that. That afternoon, I started a new file on my laptop. House reset. I wasn't selling. Not yet. This place still had bones worth saving. It was tainted, yes, but not ruined. Just needed renovation, the emotional kind. The house deserved better stories. So did I. I began rearranging rooms. Painting over colors she picked. Donated the furniture we argued over for 6 weeks. Bought a new chair for the living room. One that only I would sit in. Symbolism matters. I even tore down the shelf she installed by the front door. Said it was for cute entryway stuff. I always thought it looked off-center. Turns out I was right. That night, I poured a glass of bourbon and stood in the master bedroom. Alone. Bare walls. Fresh linens. Clean. There's something freeing about standing in the wreckage of your old life, realizing the structure still holds. The foundation didn't crack. You just had the wrong tenant. I raised the glass. To survival, I whispered, and to square footage not wasted on ghosts. Because ghosts, you see, don't haunt you forever. Eventually, you stop answering the door. A week after the cafe meeting, I got a message from her. Not a text. An email. Subject line, hey, just one last thing. It's always one last thing with people like her. Inside, a PDF. It was a copy of a lease agreement. Her name. His name. New apartment downtown. Rooftop view. Stainless steel appliances. All the bells and whistles you use to distract yourself from the filth inside. I guess it was meant to show me she'd moved on. That she was settling into her new chapter. Good. Let her. Because what she didn't know, and what I had already set in motion, was that her new little life was built on a foundation just as rotten as the one she left behind. See, I'd done more than change the locks and clear the closets. I'd done my homework. I discovered something interesting. Turns out, Mr. Rooftop View wasn't as single as he'd told her. Wife. 2 kids. Suburb not far from ours. I know. You almost feel bad for her. But don't. Because karma doesn't send emails. It sends receipts. And I was holding all of them. I debated whether or not to interfere. I really did. I'd already detached. Already reclaimed my peace. But some debts don't get paid in silence. So, I sent a package. Not to her. To him. To his real home. With his real family. Inside, a manila envelope. Contents? A copy of her text where she called me emotionally forgettable. Photos from the security footage blurred her face. My courtesy stops there. A printed copy of his lease agreement with my ex-wife. And one sticky note in neat block letters. Your wife deserves better. So did mine. I didn't expect a reply. I wasn't doing it for drama. I was doing it for the same reason people report a fire. So someone else doesn't get burned. It didn't take long. 3 days later, she showed up at the house. No warning. Just her car skidding into the driveway like she'd finally realized the ground beneath her life was cracking. She knocked once. I didn't open the door. She knocked again, louder this time. Then, open the door, please. We need to talk. I watched her through the peephole. Eyes wide. Voice shaky. Hair a mess. She looked like someone who finally realized she'd bet on a ghost. Go home, I said through the door. This was my home. No, I replied. This was a stage. You were playing a part. Silence. I messed up, she said quietly. Yes. Repeatedly. She pressed her forehead to the door like she could bleed sympathy through the wood. I didn't know he was married. And I didn't know you were this good at lying. I have nothing, she whispered. Then you've got exactly what you gave. 3 months later, the house looked different. New coat of paint. Fresh furniture. A dog that didn't care what I'd lost, only that I had a backyard and good snacks. Good dog. Neighbors stopped whispering. I stopped needing answers. I even started dating again slowly, carefully. Not out of bitterness. Out of choice. I wasn't looking to replace her. I was building something new. One brick at a time. One truth at a time. And her? Last I heard, she'd moved again. Different town. Different story. Probably telling a version where I was cold and distant, and she never really felt seen. Let her. I'm not in her story anymore. But she'll always be a footnote in mine. A caution sign. A paragraph I skipped the second time around. And me? I'm doing fine. Because the best revenge isn't rage. It's redesign. She thought she'd shattered me in our dream house. But all she did was move out of the way. So I could finally build something real.